The webinar is broadcasting and people are tuning in. Welcome, David Rees, Emily Hendricks. So glad. Emily, you were the first person to jump up, so mad props. You are ready, right on it. Welcome. Glad you're here.
I see Amrita Gurney's in the house.
All right, and hey, Alfredo, keeping the record going, buddy. Like, you're in, large and in charge. I like it, man. I think this is like, what, 7 weeks in a row, my friend, or something like that? You're nailing them, so this is good. Glad to see you guys. All kinds of, we got 95 of you with us now. Amrita, my friend, my #1 fan. I love that. You crack me up. I'm glad you're here. Andrea, good to see you. Glad to have you joining in here. Man, so many good friends tuning in. Dave Jones, Christine, love it. Lots of you tuning in. Jen Carlisle, my friend. Yes. Becca, you know Jen, don't you?
Yeah. Hey, Jen.
All kinds of. Lori Joe, good to see you.
Lori Joe.
Liz, Leah's just tuned in.
I know. Hi, Leah. My whole team's on too. Hi, Delisa. Hi, Patricia.
I love it. I love it.
Bill, the Godfather, is on.
Ooh, yes. I like it. So lots of us tuning in. We're expecting a good crowd today. This is going to be a good conversation. For those of you that have been following along and tuning in us every week, we have been doing our best to obviously keep us all connected, stay positive, and have really encouraging conversations and share ideas. Certainly challenge one another as well with what we're thinking and what we're doing, but I expect nothing less. We got an incredible panel, so I'm really, really honored that you would join us today. Time is such a precious, precious thing, right? And I think part of what we're seeing in our industry, obviously with the pent up demand is this a even greater appreciation of, the most precious time we have. And we're looking forward to, to seeing travel rebound quickly. I'm sure all of you guys saw the news yesterday that U.S. Travel put out. Would definitely encourage you tuning in to go and share that, raise the awareness of that. 51% unemployment in our industry. And so it's these webinars have been really, really important for us to keep staying connected, stay together, and spreading the good word. Amrita, better than Netflix.
Wow.
I love that.
That's a great endorsement.
That's a high bar, especially right now.
It really does. That cracks me up. So that's good. Louis, Leisha, good to see you. Yeah, we'll get started here in just another minute or two. But Becca, any updates, any house cleaning tips that we need to be aware of? Will Crockett, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. Just like Josh said, we absolutely love seeing everybody every week. It's really, really exciting. This is our 7th marketing webinar. So we're still moving and grooving and love seeing that everybody's still, participating and loving seeing it as well. So in case you don't know me, if you haven't tuned in, I'm Becca Smith. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Events for Connect Travel. Just housekeeping wise, as you have questions, submit those through the Q&A portal. Chat is looking lively today. We're loving it. It's on fire. So keep that going. Ask questions along the way. If you want to look at any of our past webinars or future webinars, check out our website, connecttravel.com/webinars. You can see everything we've done from marketing to travel trade. A lot of good resources there. Another great resource is the travel vertical. I've shared this every week, but check that out. It really is. It's a free resource. The travelvertical.com, you can subscribe. You can actually reach out to Lori Farr, who's our fabulous editor, and share any cool things you're doing, your destination, or, like if you're Adam working with really cool destinations on some cool things. Really, really great resource there. So keep that in mind. And then really just to kind of go back to Josh, he's our astute moderator. We're super excited to have him every week. I was joking earlier with my husband. I said, outside of my family, I think I see Josh's face the most every week. So just between our planning calls and all of our webinars. So yeah. It's really great to have you. And in case you haven't tuned into Josh Collins, he runs a really great vibrant destination accelerator team at Streetsense. He's got a lot of good, feedback and ideas, feel free to reach out to him. Really, really smart guy. So thanks, Josh, for being here.
Thanks, Becca. It's super funny. This rhythm we've developed, weekly calls, weekly webinars, emails, everything. It's great. I'm obviously can't wait till we have, in real life events again, right? Whether that's eTourism Summit later in the year, ESTO, wherever else, obviously looking forward to seeing one another face to face. While I love the virtual being able to see you guys, and I'm honored that you would join us. Anastasia, thanks so much for being here. So good to see you. Katie and Liz and Adam, of course. And I want you guys to introduce yourselves here in a little bit. I'm sure everybody tuning in knows you or would recognize your names in some way, shape, or form, because you guys just crush it in this space. You really do. So, and as we were planning and kind of talking about social media, you had a great session last week around brand. Social media just certainly, is perfect to stack on top of that and continue the dialogue. You guys were, some of the top of my list. So thank you so much for tuning in and joining us. And, why don't we start off? It looks like we got 166 of you in with us. So this is fantastic. And just Becca mentioned this, but if you haven't caught any of the previous ones, they're online. You can watch those, and this one's being recorded as well. If you can't see all of our faces right now, there's up at the top, you can change your view from speaker view to gallery view. I'm sure by now we're all Zoom experts, right? So you probably know that, but it does make it a little easier to see everybody and kind of see our faces and looking in gallery view versus the speaker view. So, and then of course, Q&A, drop your questions in for this incredible panel. We'll do our best to get to those. And then as well in the chat, if you want to follow up or share a resource or give a shout out, certainly you do use the chat for that. So why don't we jump off here into talking social? Let's just level set. What tools are you guys using right now? How are you finding success? And Liz, I'll just pick you. Go ahead and introduce yourself, certainly for those that may not know you, and then we'll just dive in.
Yeah, so good morning or good afternoon, whatever time zone you are in. I am Liz Mabe. I am the Digital Marketing Director for Discover Puerto Rico. Just discussing on this call earlier, almost 2 years now. So it's been a fast whirlwind ride where we have essentially developed all of our social stuff from scratch. And so those tools are super important for us specifically. The scheduling tool we use is Falcon. The reason why we ended up going with Falcon is sentiment is super important to us. So if you're not aware, Puerto Rico is no stranger to crisis. And so making sure that we're understanding how our consumers are feeling about us is just paramount. So Falcon is the tool that we use and we're super pleased with it.
So when you say sentiment, how are you guys finding, how are you leveraging that kind of on a regular basis?
Yeah, so we look at that and then it helps us shape our content strategy moving forward. So we're able to see what content is resonating with people, what their reaction and sentiment is to the posts that are going out. And so that helps us shape what we post moving forward. So we look at it constantly.
It's awesome. Anastasia, I want to jump over to you. Certainly introduce yourself. Tell you're no rookie to this industry as well, and one of my personal favorite Twitter followers, by the way. So if you guys aren't following her on Twitter, you need to be. But yeah, what tools catches up a little bit? Introduce yourself and
yeah, absolutely. My disclaimer is that I don't follow me unless you really like 30 Rock references. That's a huge chunk of what I do personally online. So just like my heads up there. But yeah, my name is Anastasia Straley. I've worked at 3 DMOs at this point, smallest being Visit St. Paul, Minnesota. Hey, Emily. I've also ran the social media at Choose Chicago for 2 years, and then I went over to San Francisco Travel. So I'm actually one of the 51% who's impacted by the layoff. So I just want to throw that out there. If you have questions about that specifically and you want to connect offline, please absolutely feel free to ask me any questions. But I'm still wiggling in and out of these communities. I know I see what you're doing on social, and so a lot of kudos to throw to a lot of you. So thanks for having me on this call, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. What's kind of, when you were at those DMOs, what tools were you leveraging and what's your favorite?
Oh man, so many tools. I mean, my favorite is the team themselves, right? The people that you work with day in and day out, and that personal connection. But I mean, I feel like the little crowd riff spokesgirl right now because I love everything that that team does. I am really excited to see some of the new local tools that they have coming out. I know that that's even more personalized, I think, for local influencers. I think there's going to be some ways to work in that space. So I'm excited to see what that program is. I'll talk to Amrita about it very soon, I'm sure. So
fantastic. Well, thanks. Glad you're here too, Anastasia. Katie, welcome. Glad to see you. You look so great, and I love that background too. Where is that at?
So my name is Katie Utken. Hi, everyone. I'm the digital marketing manager for Hamilton County Tourism. We're located in Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. This is one of our lovely parks. A photo I've been using lately on social, this is Flat Fork Creek Park. Say that 10 times fast. But within my role at Hamilton County Tourism, I oversee our social media, both the paid and organic side, though it's been a lot more of the organic stuff lately with some budget limitations. I also write content for our email newsletters, blog, website, you name it, digital marketing, I'm doing it. So in terms of tools I like to use, I've been a big fan of CoSchedule for our scheduling platform for a number of years. Josh loves it too. I think I've heard about it from him, but it not only is a scheduling tool, but it can also be used as a content calendar for your marketing team. It's got a great feature called Requeue where you can upload evergreen messages and it will intelligently fill the gaps in your calendar. And I'll jump on the CrowdRiff bandwagon. We're a client of theirs, and I've loved that they have a social publishing tool directly in platform now. So I've been sharing a lot of UGC lately of parks and sunsets since we want to use social distance friendly images. So CrowdRiff has been a great tool for us.
I love that you mentioned CoSchedule. I mean, I should be getting paid by them. Somehow, I don't know, because I do. I recommend them all the time. But I love that you brought them up, because if you're on this webinar and you may be experiencing, I'm sure you are experiencing some kind of result of impact from the pandemic, right? So you may have a smaller team now, or you may have been furloughed yourself or something, or whatever it is. And CoSchedule is a really great tool because it gives you a ton of opportunity to scale your efforts from a very, very small team. And so it can give you a lot of power. And so I'm glad you brought that up, Katie. But Adam, my friend, good to see you. How are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Excited to be here. I appreciate the invite. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Adam Stoker. I'm president and CEO of an advertising agency called Relic. We focus on destination marketing, but more of you probably know me as the host of the Destination Marketing Podcast. We release it every Tuesday. We've had Josh on a couple of times, and I see some familiar names on the list of attendees here that we've had on the show. And it's great to join and talk about some of the issues facing our industry today.
Yeah, and you've got a really great, sharp team, right, of nimble social media marketers, right? So what are you guys, what tools are you leveraging, and how are you kind of doing right now?
Yeah, we've got a couple of interesting things going on. As far as tools go, we use a tool that probably not very many people on here are using because it's more agency focused, right? We're able to toggle between multiple clients. It's called Sprout Social, and we use that to deal with multiple clients. But one of the things that we really see as an underutilized product in the industry is Pinterest. We could probably dive more into Pinterest today, but we really feel like Pinterest is going to be an opportunity for higher utilization by destinations over the next several months and into 2021.
I love that you mentioned Pinterest because, before joining the team at Streetsense, I was, of course, at Visit Franklin, which is a town outside of Nashville, very similar to what Katie experiences outside Indianapolis. And so we did a campaign one time on Pinterest with featuring how to say, it was around Valentine's Day. And it was all how to say I love you in 100 different languages or something like that, right? It's very simple kind of infographic. And I swear, every year that still was our most pinned and shared thing. I mean, years later, still gaining engagement and traffic through Pinterest.
Yeah, the evergreen value of Pinterest, I think, is a little bit underrated. That content remains findable for a long time. And so it really works as a real snowball opportunity for building content.
So obviously, one of the things that I love about the social media community, especially, and all of us in the DMO space, we know each other, we follow each other. We definitely creep on what people are doing great and love it, like Liz. I mean, you guys have been crushing it lately. So what about, I mean, who is inspiring you guys? Who do y'all feel like is just crushing it right now, given the difficulties of what we're doing? Who's impressing you? Somebody jump in.
I'll jump in. So I will just say the kind of the first kind of brand that I saw that I really thought one that just caught my attention and really addressed the elephant in the room was Condé Nast Traveler. I feel like the way they repositioned their tone was really great. They called out the elephant in the room and they said, you know, we know you can't travel right now, but that doesn't mean that we're going to quit serving you content and that we're not going to inspire you to continue to plan your future travels. And for me, that was kind of an aha moment. This was like, you know, back in mid-March where we're all like, what do we say? What do we talk about right now? And I was like, you know, we can still continue to provide that valuable content to our consumers right now. It is appropriate for us to continue to have those conversations, and we just have to meet them where they are. And so that was when we started making a shift. And so, you know, Condé Nast, I think, has done a great job of just kind of evolving as, you know, the circumstances have continued to change, and has certainly been somebody that I've kept my eye on as we've moved forward.
That's awesome. Katie, what about you?
I've been served a lot of Facebook ads lately for Visit Gatlinburg, Tennessee, which is not far, a couple hours south of Indianapolis here. But I've just loved the creative and the copy points they've been using. Lots of, I mean, obviously they have the Great Smoky Mountains in their backyards. They've got beautiful vistas to show, but just the inspirational copy they're using of, you know, get ideas for the next time you visit. It's not saying, come see us right this second, because they know people are on the spectrum of wanting to pack up their bags and go somewhere tomorrow. And some people may not want to travel until the fall or later. So saying things like the mountains will be here when you're ready for it. So I've just been approved to spend some social dollars starting in June. And as we build out that campaign, I'm kind of looking to Gatlinburg as an example for sure.
That's great. Anastasia, what about you? Who are you creeping on right now?
My two biggest creeps are, one is Destination BC. Somehow I know everything that's going on locally there. And if I wanted to go tomorrow, I'd know exactly what was open. And I think that's also particularly special because it's really helping develop the local community. Going forward, you're going to need these businesses to connect and be connected with you. And this is just kind of laying the groundwork for that. So if there are any other destinations that have really taken that approach, I would continue using that B2B sector as like kind of the glue that holds you all together at this point. And then also Discover LA has been doing those sunset every single night. We're going to live stream the sunset. So not only is that just nice and relaxing and you don't have to think about it, you also know what time it is every single day. I think that's a really nice little time element there too, that like, oh, like I don't know what time it is ever. Like let's just watch the sunset, and that's kind of a rhythmic.
Yeah, I love that content too. I think St. Pete Clearwater is doing a great job with like just the water, the beach, you know, and just being able to listen to the water, right? I mean, that's been fantastic. Savannah I think Visit Savannah is doing a great job too. Their walks in the park, right? And just listening to that has been really good. Adam, what have you seen? What's inspiring you and your team?
Well, Josh, Savannah is where I was going to go. And I might be biased because it's one of my very favorite trips I've ever taken is to Savannah. But I've been watching their content, and I think they've done a great job of starting with what is our overarching strategy? What is our holistic recovery strategy? And then they had the brilliant idea of launching their strategy through PR first and launching their ads through PR. They weren't saying, hey, come visit right now, but they said, here's what we're going to say when it's time. And they actually showed the phases of that plan. And now you can go look at all their social channels and see how they're following that plan to a T as they're going through this recovery process. And they're using a lot of user-generated content. They're asking people, hey, you can't visit right now, but what was your favorite experience when you did? And then they've curated those stories into a video, and they're sharing those stories on their social pages. I think they're doing an incredible job.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You bring up a good point too about, you know, sometimes we've heard in the past social being discounted almost because it's like, well, it's just top of funnel, it's aspirational or it's inspirational. No, how much can it really, what is really the ROI behind social and whatever? But you know, one thing that we've seen in the research, you know, in the last few months, right? Time in being spent inside these platforms, in Facebook news feed, right? On Instagram, on Twitter, Pinterest even, right? Is through the roof. You've got a new user behavior of people sitting, looking to be entertained, looking to engage in kind of, new ways, right? So certainly the value of social is more important than ever. Liz, you guys, I know, have seen a ton of engagements and stuff through what you guys have been doing. Talk to us a little bit about that.
We have. I'm going to use a phrase, and I don't know if Patrick from Miles created it, but I'm going to give him credit for it. It's called Armchair Tourism. And that's exactly what it is. We're meeting people in their homes, in their offices while they're working, and we're wanting to provide them with content. So we've done over 20 virtual vacations over the past 2 months. That's activations including culture, history, cuisine, cocktail mixing classes, salsa dancing classes, you name it, we've probably done it. The engagement with it has been huge. We've had over 86,000 consumers tune into those, and that's not even counting the earned media piece that is part of it. I don't know the earned media value off the top of my head, but it's pretty astounding. So it was a two-pronged approach that we did. I think my personal favorite activation we did was our Google Earth tours. So we did those during National Tourism and Travel Week. And so we wanted to find a way that we could actually immerse people in the destination without them physically being there. And so we did the tours live on Facebook with a local tour guide. So we were able to actually walk around, and he was able to click on things and navigate and narrate. We recorded those. So I know Katie mentioned this on one of our prep calls. Brian Matson from 26 Digital would be pleased. They're not just going to live on Facebook. We recorded them, we put them on YouTube. They're embedded in articles and itineraries on our website where people can go back and find that information of, hey, maybe I watched it when I wasn't ready to plan my trip, but now I am ready to plan my trip to Puerto Rico. And I saw this one place on this one tour that I really want to make sure that I want to go to, and where can they find that sort of information? And the response to the virtual vacations has been huge. Our audience loves it. It has been a labor of love. I will say shout out to my team for making that happen. The logistics that goes into those are no joke, but we've done them flawlessly. So super proud of those efforts.
That's awesome. Katie, what are you guys doing in Hamilton County there and how are you seeing it, keeping you connected and engaged with your social audience?
Yeah, I think like a lot of DMOs did right after this whole pandemic started, we did a lot of the at-home virtual content, the coloring pages that saw a lot of traffic for us. And then we were also tuning into what was performing well on Google Analytics. So for example, our trails page, specifically we have the Monon Trail in Central Indiana, that has gone gangbusters. We haven't promoted it with any paid money, but we've just been ramping up those efforts based on what people are already looking for. Parks, trails, for example, similar to what Adam was talking about with Visit Savannah during National Travel and Tourism Week, I had a question every day on our social media pages for our followers to say, where's your favorite place to take your kids? Where's your favorite place for date night? If you hosted friends and family, where would you take them for the weekend? And then I've compiled all those answers and I'm turning them into a blog post that could be used as inspiration for future travelers. So repurposing content is a huge thing. Like Liz said, referencing Brian Matson and the 5 ways to use content is just create a piece of content and post it everywhere you can. So
I love that. I love the mention to Brian too. Brian, I don't think he's tuning in, but he should get, somebody needs to tag him on Twitter and let him know that we've dropped his name twice at least.
I think Dave's here, so.
Oh, good. Yes, perfect. Anastasia, one of the things that from social that you've got to understand, repurposing content is so key on social, but also like posting multiple times, in a single day, like on Twitter, for example, right? I know sometimes we get into this rhythm of thinking, oh, great, I posted once and I did it. I checked the box, but you got people in multiple time zones. You got Twitter, for example, is a platform that's very fast moving and stuff like that. So if you're giving us, teach us right now, right? If you're teaching those of us all on the call, what are some tips that you're kind of coaching people along right now and how to kind of survive and continue to kind of engage on social?
Sure, yeah. I think right now is especially a great time to take advantage of some of your more out-of-the-box ideas. Those are my favorite to begin with. Anyone who's worked in an office with me knows that I'll just pitch what if we did this because I think it would be funny. And thank God I've worked with people who can actually form those ideas into actual campaigns, because otherwise it would just be me making jokes at myself all the time. But I think that's especially what we're kind of craving right now is to have something that, you know what, I haven't seen that before. Like, we're all like, I'm so tired. I don't need to see another coronavirus joke. Like, I really don't. That's just not something I'm interested in. So if you have one of those ideas that it's just something different, I think that's probably good for you creatively as a team member too. And one of the ways that I really got to experiment with that, I know not all of us have like TikTok channels, but that was something that I really started using just because they have the internal, it's like AI editing where you just pick which videos you want. You can set it to the music and it cuts it to the music specifically. I would download those and then I could repurpose them across different channels. So all I needed on my phone was the TikTok app. And then also I used InShot to resize it so it was more appropriate on whatever channel I was going for. So I'd always have a 4x5, I would always have a 1x1. And those just kind of picked up traffic. It was so funny because sometimes it would pick up more traffic on Facebook or Instagram than it would on TikTok itself. So even if you're just playing around with those ideas, I think now, like, especially if your social media manager can get out and start taking these short videos, that's something new to try, something that might be more engaging for you and something in the long run might benefit your social strategy right now.
I'm glad you mentioned TikTok. I don't know if you guys caught the news. I think it was just yesterday, right? The big news, TikTok, Kevin Mayer, right, is leaving Disney. Who, you know, Kevin, I don't know if you're familiar or follow Disney at all, right? But launches Disney Plus, and then now has taken over for TikTok. So that is going to be really interesting to watch that platform. I know because I have kids. I have a 15-year-old daughter who hates me most days, and she's on that platform all the time. And when it comes to influencing purchasing behavior, I can testament to you, right, that she influences our purchasing behavior. So it makes me kind of wonder if we're not actually approaching a time when DMOs should absolutely be leveraging TikTok in ways that they haven't thought about before. That might be something that's coming at us. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Oh, absolutely. And it is, the power is incredible there. I think there's even a hashtag right now that's trending that's TikTok made me buy it. Because all these kids are also sitting inside. They have access to Amazon and they're like, oh, that looks cool. So they're out there. The kids are out there. And if you want a great example of that, I know Explore Alaska has a beautiful account. So
that's fantastic. Adam, you know, one of the things that I'm sure like you're getting involved in conversations and around strategy, planning, you know, different phases of recovery and how, you know, and how do we identify which phase we're going to, what are the metrics around that? What are some of those indicators so that we can have, you know, kind of one might be a bridge strategy. We might have a bridge messaging strategy, right? And then we might now move into, hey, we're opening, but, you know, we have safety messaging. We want to communicate, all that kind of stuff, right? So how are you thinking about that in terms of shaping the messages, one, globally, like holistically, like you're talking about earlier, but then as that particularly drills down to that individual post on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, how are you thinking through that?
Yeah, and I think this may be one of the bigger mistakes that I've been seeing in the destination marketing social media space over the last several months is we're all having those giant existential communication, like, okay, what do we do? Immediately it was like, hey, let's get a bridge thing out there. I've seen some great content like activity books and coloring books, at home engagement type stuff during the bridge campaigns. But then in the recovery process, I think we're so focused on kind of the high level staged recovery process. I don't see it always rolling down to those social channels, right? So how does our Twitter strategy or our Facebook or Instagram strategy or Pinterest, as I mentioned before, change now that we've got these recovery plans created? And I really feel like every post has to roll up to that recovery strategy by phase. You know, I've seen some social campaigns that it's almost like they haven't changed. It's almost like, hey, come visit, you know, and that we're just leaving it at that, you know, and it hasn't adjusted for the stage of the recovery process that we're at. And I do feel like a lot of people get caught in the cycle of, okay, I've got to make 3 Facebook posts this week. I don't know what they're going to be, but I gotta do that, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But you really have to be intentional about how does that post tie into the objectives that we came up with by stage for our recovery strategy. And like you said, That can include safety messaging. You know, one of the things that we're seeing right now with our clients is people used to use the social channels for our clients as more of a planning phase mechanism, right? Now we're seeing more real time. They get into the destination, they're like, what's open, what's not, you know, what restaurants have dine-in, what restaurants have curbside. So I would also recommend using your social channels for more of a real-time updates. That used to be kind of Twitter's role, you know, and I would now kind of pass that to multiple other platforms, because people, there's not enough information out there right now about what's open and what's not and what the new hours are. And, you know, I would definitely try to incorporate that real-time messaging into your recovery strategy on your social channels.
That's so good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Becca, I want to check in with you real quick. I know you've dropped off a couple of times because you had storms. You've got storms coming down there. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm good. There's no rain in the back, but it's wild over here.
Okay, good. And just those of you tuning in, you probably see Becca coming in and out. She warned us ahead of time that she's having some internet issues, so don't want anybody to be alarmed there. But
no baby yet. I'm 39 weeks pregnant. My baby's still here. We're good.
Good. I'm glad. Good. Very. Yes. Thank you for that. We do have a great question from Emrita, and this is. And I'd love for Liz and Katie. I'll pass this to you guys first. You know, how are you measuring success? Is that changing, right? Are you still tracking the same metrics? I'd love to kind of hear you both dive in on that. Liz, we'll start with you and then Katie.
Yeah, we're definitely tracking the same metrics. Do I like the results of them? No. So, it is pretty disheartening when you look at things like Adara booking revenues and things like that, and you see the decreases. We are still tracking those though. So, our angle and our mission doesn't change. At the end of the day, we still want to inspire and drive people to visit the island, not right now. And so, we're still looking at all of our key metrics of the revenue generation. We're looking at site traffic. We're looking at organic site traffic. So that's been something that, I've really been tracking in terms of what are people searching for organically, and like, where can we kind of fill in some of those holes in terms of content, and like, what are they looking for right now in this given moment, and where can we kind of meet them where they are. And then just to piggyback off of what Adam was talking about, just in terms of messaging, I do think it's super important for destinations to be coming out with what are you as a destination doing to be prepared for customers, moving forward. So as you're opening up, I use this as a joke and it's funny, but not funny, but like, are we going to spray you down with Lysol when you arrive at the airport? Probably not. But like, what are those steps going to be? Are they going to check your temperature, just so people can be prepared for that? So just as a note, I think that's super important for all destinations, gathering that information from your partners, you being the source of that information for your travelers, and having a place for them to go and gather that information. And it'll be interesting to see how people engage with that as we start sharing that across our channels of, this is how we as an island are preparing for your arrival whenever it is safe for you to travel. So I think that'll be interesting to see how the performance of that sort of messaging pans out.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Katie, what about you?
I think for us, both before and whatever this new normal is, engagement on social media has always been a key metric for us and will continue to be. Things like website sessions as a result of social traffic. Like Liz said, those numbers are not where we want them to be. Our beautiful simple view dashboard of metrics for the year is kind of thrown out the window in favor of just survival and returning to 2019 year-over-year metrics as we see that line get back up to what it was last year. It's the little cheers in our office every day, but I just think seeing what's doing well organically, because like I said, we haven't paid for anything on Facebook in 2 months, which is very unusual for us. So just seeing any sort of website traffic that we're getting without putting money behind it is a success in our book right now.
So we've got a great question here. I just wanted to follow up. When you guys are talking about looking at organic traffic, specifically and observing that behavior, I totally agree with you. I'm glad you bring that up. It's a key metric because it's a signal, right? It's a signal that person, that audience, on their own accord is doing something, right? And so to be able to pay attention to that, looking at what they search, for example, Megan's asking, where do you find that information? Certainly that, takes a little bit of skill to look at that within Google Analytics, but I would tell you, you'll be able to find it there. So I definitely want to respond, Megan, to that question that you're asking for. Anastasia, we got another question here too about, as it regards to, or as it relates to TikTok. TikTok. Is paid or influencers on TikTok something you would consider coming out of this?
I think it would definitely depend on the budget that you have for that, if you have any. I don't know if I'd actively encourage like, hey, start a TikTok specific influencer program right now if you didn't have like a greater plan already in place. But I don't think it would hurt to start reaching out to local influencers, especially. I think this is a great time to kind of build those roots that you have within your own destination, especially since a lot of the spending is going to come from locals first, and then in the future you'll be able to kind of depend on them, since influencers are all about the relationship anyway. This might be a good time to get your locals kind of in on the upswing, and then later on, if you want to build a program that kind of focuses on them, I think that would be a route that I would explore. I'm not sure that I would tell you to go out and find every TikToker that pops up on your For You page, though, because that's not going to be a sustainable strategy. They're out there. And I know if you are looking for local influencers, TikTok does serve up regionally first. So start exploring and see what they're talking about. It's also a huge trend for them to say, oh, these are the places that I'm going to go to in my location right when I get out. I would just reach out from our Only NSF account and say, hey, this is great. Do you mind if I repost? And I kind of aggregate it like any other crowdsourced material. So that might also be a way for you to explore influencers on TikTok without actually jumping into the paid end of things right now.
So Adam, I see I think you and I are thinking similar things here, because you're jumping in with Matt in the chat window here. And I love, Matt, what you mentioned here. I'm so glad. This is one of the biggest underutilized tools on Facebook that DMOs, I think, just to be candid with you, I think you're missing a huge opportunity by developing a locals only or a local ambassador, a local, enthusiast, that capturing the pride of where they have chosen to live Facebook group, right? If you're familiar with Facebook, if you follow along over the years, they have always taught us how they want us to play their game. They have told us over and over again with every initiative they do, you do this and you'll have better results than if you do this. If you want to do that, we'll let you do it, but it's going to cost you, right? It's going to cost you a whole lot more. So you would see certainly organic reach just plummet, right? And then even paid reach go through the roof, right? So Facebook groups and their pursuit of community-based Facebook groups is a major initiative of theirs. I see you're engaging with this too, Adam. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, to me, one of the most challenging parts of being a destination marketer is that so much of your marketing has to happen at the top of the funnel, right? And permission to market on an ongoing basis is really hard to come by. Your choices are through email marketing or through liking a social page, or as Matt has shown us here, creating a Facebook group, or I've created the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group on LinkedIn, but choose your platform and create that community, create that group. And then you have permission to continue to feed them content. And in a world where engaging your stakeholders is so important, like it is in destination marketing, and sometimes you can't control the media coverage of your destination, you can't control a lot of the different parts of getting the word out to your stakeholders about the value that you bring to the destination. This locals only type Facebook group that Matt is showing us here is a great way to control the narrative because you own the group. I think it's a great idea. I think he's doing a great thing here. And I think every destination should be leveraging some sort of owned social community like a Facebook group.
It's a great way to think about, as you are getting into different phases of recovery and you have different messages you want to get out there. It's one thing for all of us. Again, let's tap into our consumer hats here. It's one thing when we, as marketers especially, we know when we're being sold to, but everyone does. Everyone knows when they are being made the means to someone else's end, right? And so for us to be really creative and think creative about, okay, we've got some initiative, or let's say it's around safety. We want to make sure that needs to become tier 1 messaging, right? As we learned last week on the branding webinar, right? Safety, cleanliness, all of that stuff needs to become tier 1 messaging. How about activating your locals through a Facebook group to help spread that messaging, right? Natively, organically, just huge opportunities there. Liz, it looks like you're wanting to jump in on that too. I'd want to get you the opportunity to jump in.
Yeah, just I think like I said before, that safety messaging is going to be huge, and that is going to be part of not only just communicating that locally, but to our consumers specifically. So as we are building out our media plans moving forward, that's going to be 50% of our messaging is sort of that confidence. How are we going to take care of you? When we get here. So yeah, I think of course wanting to integrate that within the destination itself is huge.
Yeah, totally. And Will, I love this question that you've put in there. We're seeing a lot of data indicating that the first phase of travel to come back will be people going to visit family members they haven't seen in months. I totally agree. We've been seeing the same thing before they take their usual vacations. Interview planning to specifically for that first family travel phase. Curious how some of you might take advantage of that style. I'd love, certainly, Katie, you want to kick us off on what conversations y'all have been having internally around that?
Yeah, absolutely. We think not only the drive market, but visiting friends and relatives, VFR, is going to be the first thing to come back for us, especially being a family-friendly Midwest destination, very populous cities. We also have a large youth sports complex. So people, our first visitors may be people who are here for their baseball tournament that's finally been rescheduled for June. So absolutely, when we start paid advertising, and even our organic messages are going to talk about making up for lost time and those new family memories that you want to create and reconnecting with loved ones.
Hey, I'd like to jump in on this one too, if that's okay. The thing that you and I, Josh, talked about when you actually came on the Destination Marketing podcast was the fact that everybody's messaging radius has gotten really tightened up with this thing, and drive markets are going to be first. And one thing that I feel like has probably been neglected in destination marketing is in-market messaging, in-market advertising. And if you are targeting the VFR audience that's coming to stay with friends and family, in-market advertising is critical, because if you've neglected your local market as far as letting the locals know what there is to do, they're not going to be a great tour guide for their friends and family that are coming to visit. So now it's on the destination to advertise in market and provide a vehicle to give a great experience to the people that are coming to visit friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really good. Becca, I think
yeah, there's a good good question to follow up on some of the comments you've all kind of made here. Is you said you're not doing paid digital ads because of budget, but is that a choice because of budget, or is it because you just don't want to promote it this time? Or is it both?
Yeah, great question. Liz, what about you guys? How have you all approached that?
Yeah, so we are still running some paid media. Is it at full scale? No. So we are running specifically SEM, and we are running on social. We are working on our phase 2 of our media plan, which will be a full scale media plan, including OTT, over the top television, display banners. It will be the full run of the gamut. We're looking hopefully to launch that sometime in early June, but Puerto Rico is still on stay-at-home order, so we've got to wait until the island is actually reopened in order to launch that media messaging. But yeah, we are not dark in terms of media. We were dark there for a couple of weeks as we just kind of repositioned kind of our tone, but we don't want to leave that audience out there without hearing from us.
Yeah, that's great. Katie, what about you guys?
Yeah, for us, I think it's been a mix of both budget and just wanting to be sensitive to the topic, especially when it was late March, early April. We've still done some paid search efforts, but it's been very low key. We've not been spending anything really on social media, again, largely because the budget's not there, but then we want to kind of save that money for our recovery strategy. And as we re-enter the marketplace, social is the first thing we're going to do, and that's actually how we're going to test our creative that we could then use in a bigger way for TV, print, radio, etc., just because social is the most affordable way to kind of kickstart marketing.
That's such a good pro tip there, is leveraging your social channels as a test to see what works, what resonates, right? Alfredo's got a great question here. I'd love to throw this to Anastasia and Liz, because I think that, both of you have such great perspectives when it comes to international audiences. So when you think about social media, obviously we understand impact of international travel right now, right? But what conversations have you been both privy to, or are you participating in, and how you're thinking about international audiences through your social channels?
Sure. I know that our agencies were advising us not to go completely dark just because we wanted to keep San Francisco top of mind for a lot of visitors. You can't come right, and it's a lot of the same messaging where you can't come right now, but look at these great views that aren't going anywhere. Look at the history, look at the food. There were a lot of elements of that. I know that the team was also going to start advertising in market based on airlift. That's going to be kind of crucial because why advertise in a country that you can't even get to from? That connection is so key, and the ROI wouldn't be there if you're just throwing dollars at it. Yeah. It's a balance, I think. I would love to see those sentiment scores you have, Liz, on sentiment in different countries. I think that would also play a factor into it, just because the US especially, I don't know what our sentiment is abroad right now. I don't know if it's regionalized, like, oh, in California you'd be okay, but we're not sure about the South. Like, I don't know what the breakdown is there. So I think those are things that you would have to kind of consider. Maybe we don't go full force on the entire United States yet, but certain pockets will be able to start that much sooner than others.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Liz, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good, Adam.
Oh, I was just going to quickly say that I feel like one of the most important things to evaluate as you're questioning, do I advertise internationally or not, is the value of a dollar combined with the audience and the timing, right? Marketing is getting the right message to the right people at the right time, you know? And so the idea of marketing internationally might be an okay idea, but would that dollar be more valuable internationally in June or July? And that's really the thing that you've got to evaluate, especially as all these budgets have been cut, is the value of a dollar compared to the timing and the audience.
Yeah, that's really good. I know, Liz, part of what makes up the visitation that you guys typically experience is family members coming to visit family members, right? There is a heritage component to your destination's tourism. So how do you guys kind of process that now?
Yeah, diaspora is a very important audience for us. So there is a significant Puerto Rican population that lives in the mainland US. And so, yeah, they are going to be a key audience for us. Like I think, as the research has alluded to, they are going to be the first to travel to go back and visit their friends and their family. Puerto Rico, we're an island. So the only way that you can get to us is by cruise ship or on an airplane. So we don't have the luxury of having drive markets like many of the mainland US destinations have. And so that audience is even more so important because, they're probably going to be a little more brave to get on an airplane because they want to come home and they want to see their grandma or their mom or their cousins, their aunts and their uncles. And so we are working on messaging specifically for that audience as part of our phase 2 media campaign to kind of pull on those heartstrings of like, you want to come home, and see your family. And then just to touch on international, it surprises a lot of people, but 95% of our visitation comes from mainland US. So less than 5% of our visitation from the island comes from international markets, largely dependent to air service. So like Anastasia alluded to, it doesn't make sense for us to be in markets where we don't have direct airlift to. And so, we're keeping a close watch on, airlift for now and seeing how that's fluctuated in the markets. And we'll make decisions, internationally and, mainland on how we want to approach that moving forward.
It's fantastic stuff. We got time for a couple more questions. I want to try to get to them. Wendy, I think you asked a really great question. We have seen this come up in a lot of past webinars. So Katie, I'd love to see it because I think you've got a great perspective in that so much of your traffic and drive traffic specifically probably certainly does filter through Indianapolis, right? And you've got a big market there. You guys draft from that market a lot, but how are you thinking about expanding that radius, so to speak, and to what you may target in that first drive market response?
Yeah, I think for us it's going to be twofold. Of first, messaging to our locals, like Adam was saying, to make sure they know the information of what's reopened, because we have locals who are asking, when is this museum going to open? Is this park open for us to go to? So it's going to be some local boosted messaging, but then our drive market is going to be the Indianapolis DMA. Since we're just north of them, it would be probably a lot of in-state messaging. So our other big markets are South Bend and Fort Wayne within state. And then from there, maybe later on this summer, we would expand into Chicago's our big market. We love to advertise in Cincinnati. But it's going to be really pretty much within the state borders for probably the first couple weeks in our first phase.
Gotcha. I know and Adam, you commented on the Arrivalist Travel Index, which is a really great, helpful tool. I've got it bookmarked and I'm looking at that all the time for lots of different clients that we're working with right now. But I think too, you know, we've said this in the past, and this is really important if this isn't a part of your mix as far as what you're thinking. Cost of fuel is really low right now. Right. And you've got some sense of our audience is all understanding and looking and really, I mean, they're telling us what they want to do with their wallet. Right. I mean, they're telling us by how and so you can look at that by purchasing behavior for air. We've mentioned that. And certainly as you think about now the trust, right? The trust of the consumer. And do I feel safe to jump on an airplane that maybe is to that destination or to visit that family member. And maybe traditionally that flight would have taken, you know, it used to maybe have only taken 2 hours, but now with lesser routes, now it probably takes 6-8 hours, right? And now all of a sudden I'm in a whole different equation where I'm probably more likely to jump in the car where I can clean it myself, I can feel safer, and I will drive further. So maybe beyond a tank of gas, I might go 2 tanks of gas, right? And I'm willing to incur that because at the end of the day, it's still cheaper, right? So some of those things are really important to think about when you're assessing your drive market and maybe even adjusting that targeting radius. Adam, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, let me give you one more thing to watch out for because every market has a different time that it's, so for example, if you've got a state border next to you and you attract a lot from another state, you need to pay really close attention to not only the stay-at-home orders, have they been lifted, but then also have they seen the decline in cases, or are you actually inviting people that are still in a very high-risk market to come bring it and bring I can't remember what it's called, but to bring the disease to your market and pass it along. Like, to me, you've got to keep those socially responsible launch triggers in mind outside of just, hey, are they willing to drive? Cool, let's market to them. I think there's so much more than that.
Yeah, that's a good segue here because one of the last topics that we haven't touched on yet is community management, right? And healthy stewardship of community management is so key to all the driving the metrics that we want, driving the metrics around engagement, click-throughs, time on site, I mean, all that kind of stuff, right? The last thing we want is the internet hater, you know, or the Facebook police engaging and kind of spoiling the fun for us, so to speak. You know what I mean? And we got a couple of questions around this. And so Jen, thank you for that. Emily as well, and others I know have asked, but how are you guys thinking? Let's close with this question. Anastasia, you've been so successful as a community manager for multiple destinations. What are some tips and how do we think about that? How do we navigate really good community management on social right now?
Yeah, I think right now it's about just being honest and authentic. And I think it's easier to do that right now because so much of the local orders are public, where you can be like, I'm sorry that it's not, like, we're all going through this together and this is just not ready right now. And I think also being very clear, and like there are going to be community losses too. So kind of mourning those community losses with them. If someone's in the comments saying like, oh, I wish this was open, and you know what, we do too. We're going to miss this. Here are other businesses that you can support instead. It's going to be a lot of keeping up with the news, especially as like it's not fun sometimes being the authority, but that's what you are. So just making sure that you're doing your due diligence and saying like, hey, here's what we know. And I think being on top of messages, like I know earlier we were talking about what metrics are you tracking. I think that community service and especially response time on Facebook, those messages that are coming through, I think that would be something to watch, and making sure you're keeping those numbers low. So that way when people ask these questions that are really important to them, they don't feel like they're screaming at the ether, because that's what we all feel like all the time. So
that's really, I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is a really good metric to pay attention to. Katie, what about when people are I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but I'm sure there are people that are like, you got both people on the divide, some that want to open up and others are like, no, right? How do you steward that as a community manager?
Yeah, for sure. You know, with us, our county is separate from the county that Indianapolis is in, and they are on 2 different orders. So for example, hair salons are open up here right now. They're not open south of 96th Street in Indianapolis. So It's been difficult to kind of understand and make sense of all the orders. I think, like Anastasia said, we're working on a resource for our website that just is reopening guidelines, not only just of the governor's guidelines, but we've reached out to all of our big attractions and partners to get their reopening dates, to have it on one page, because I think this is the time when users are finally going to use destination websites. For a long time, they've just used TripAdvisor and Google and OTAs, and people are going to want to hear the official word from the destination marketing organization of, hey, is your area open for visitors yet? Are you still at stay at home? What's open? So I think having a resource page on your website spelling out, this is what our state and our community is doing, and this is the status of, the biggest attractions you'll want to see, will help reassure people and will help establish authority for your organization.
That's really good. Liz, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think what Katie was saying is just being that resource of information for people is just imperative. We have that page on our website of here's what, the circumstances look like right now. Here's what's open, here's what's closed, here's all the information that you need to know. We have a list of frequently asked questions too, so we direct people to that page. So all the information that they're seeking, they're able to find from us. And then moving forward, like I've said, with the health and safety guidelines, we want to make sure that those are clear and concise, because it's kind of confusing. There's a lot of detail that are going into some of these health and safety guidelines before. And so how do we consolidate that and make it clear to where people actually understand what they're going to experience whenever they arrive in the destination? So that's not done yet. We're still working on that to make that clear and concise, but just making sure that we have a hub for all of that information, because people are going to ask for it. They want to know, and huge shout out to my team, Patricia and Astrid. I think they're tuned in. They're the ones that are in there every day responding to people and, keeping up with all of the questions and responses. So big shout out to them.
Adam, you want to give us some of your wisdom on kind of the, stewarding the divide that we probably experience from our brands on the community management side?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to Matt's suggestion, what he showed that they've done, and that was obviously as it pertains to dining, creating a Facebook page. But if you had a local stakeholders social community group, you would actually be able to gather that sentiment a lot easier, right? And understand through asking that group questions what their thoughts and feelings are. And look, I don't think very many of us had those communities created prior to COVID-19 hitting. So I think now our job is to learn and get better. And one of the action items that I'm taking out of this is that I think every destination should have that owned social community, a group, and probably on multiple platforms that allows you to gauge that sentiment a little bit better, so that you're not guessing or shooting in the dark, because you are going to have people on both sides. And there is no magic formula to know when it's right or wrong. It's all about communication, and I think an owned social community would facilitate that communication that you're looking for.
So, this is really important. I've certainly seen this, when I was leading visitfranklin.com and that brand, but one of the biggest things you always see when you get haters, right? When you get the haters on, a buddy of mine has written tons of books, and I love one of his phrases. He's like, "You got to hug your haters. You got to learn to hug your haters, because they're sweet people, and you just tend to say bless their hearts, and when you encounter them, right?" But in the South, at least, that's what we say. But essentially, at the core of the messaging, right, is there is a really true heartfelt desire of concern and of wanting to be heard. And when you can set up these very specific communities like that, you create the channel for that to be brought, right? And that's all about education. It's all about, I love when you have a stakeholders group or you have a locals-based group, when you have those in really intentional ways, you can educate them on the purpose of why you exist, right? This brand, this Facebook page, what we do here, or is all about trying to attract people to come, right? And visit and experience our destination, create positive economic impact, et cetera, right? This group is where we can, work together. And that education process, sometimes it's as simple as saying, hey, thanks. you get the negative comments. You go, hey, thanks. This is, really, really important. You should join our group over here because it's where, all of our passionate locals are, and obviously we know it's going to be tricky. There is no simple solution. I'm glad there's no magic bullet for sure. But that's a big takeaway, is to think about intentionally stewarding these stakeholder groups and locals-based groups for the positive impact that it can make on for your brand and with your destination for sure. Well, guys, we did it. I mean, we just hit it. We just hit an hour, and we still got 150 of you with us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Becca, you want to kind of close us out and let us know what we've got to look forward to next week? And,
yes. Yeah, fabulous webinar. Thank you all for participating and for attending. But yeah, next week we've got a little bit of a different topic. We're going to talk about how to connect arts, culture, heritage, and performance experiences into the current travel climate. So really good perspectives, DMOs, someone who's in that space specifically. So we'll have a really good group hopefully next week. So make sure you join us.
I love it. We got a quick question. Will it be posted? Yes, you guys will get a follow-up email with some great takeaways for you, a link to, view the recording. You can feel free to share that with others. If there's anything I or any of us on the panel here can do, feel free to reach out. Find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, the Instagram machine, whichever you prefer. We'd love to connect with you. Again, seriously, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, thank you.
Woo, woo. Great job, team.
That was fun.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you for giving your time and joining us. I really appreciate it.
No, I had a great time. Great questions. You weren't lying.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the questions that came from the audience too. I thought it was good stuff.
Oh, Adam, I'm sorry I missed you. Yes, you should have plugged your book. Sorry, bro.
Next time.
Sherry, are we still live?
Yeah, we're still recording.
You are still live and recording, yes.
You can add it in, Adam.
Hey, there you go.
If anybody wants to check out my book, it's called Touch Points. It's the Destinations Guide for Brand Evaluation and Enhancement. Check it out. It's on Amazon.
Love it. Awesome. Well, guys, have a great week. Seriously, Katie, good to see you. Anastasia, Adam, Liz jumped off. I'll send her a note. But Becca, of course, always good to see you guys. Stay healthy. Stay well.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.